Hello and welcome to another episode of the Haskin Cast podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and this isn't really an episode as much as it is a few quick updates and kind of going over what I've decided to do with the show. First, let's get into the fun stuff. I am very, very excited that I was asked to be a guest on the Deep Purple podcast. As we all know, Deep Purple is the band that I grew up with, and all the offshoot family members like Rainbow, Whitesnake, that sort of thing. And Nathan and John, who were on the show last year, were kind enough to invite me to be a guest on a very interesting episode of their show. Now, where they normally do album reviews and interviews with different people that were involved with projects related to Deep Purple, they took some fan questions and we did a roundtable what if episode. So what if Ritchie Blackmore didn't leave in 1975? What if, this and that? So we speculated as best we could. It's pretty impossible to say what would happen if something didn't happen in reality, because it would change the course of everything. It's like when people say, well, what would happen if the Beatles were just starting out now? Well, music wouldn't be what music is right now if it wasn't for the Beatles. So it's really hard to say what would happen if they were a new band on the scene now and they had not existed before. There's too many things at play in a lot of these questions, so it's a bit challenging, but we had fun with it. They asked a lot of state-specific questions, and I've never been to Rhode Island, and I've only been to Chicago once, so I couldn't really participate as much. But the guys were really kind and said, well, what about you? Did you have, anything that's similar to what we're talking about? So they tried to include me on some of the more non-music related questions as well. But I had a great time hanging out with them. We were talking for probably 2.5, 3 hours, somewhere in there. The episode isn't quite that long, but it is a lengthy episode, and I had a lot of fun. So thanks, guys. And I still stand behind what I say on the show. I don't care what any of these scenarios are. Rainbow is still happening, no matter if Ritchie would have left or not, or whatever happened. Rainbow is still a thing. So that was a lot of fun. And I've got the link to that episode in the show notes. And if you're a fan of Deep Purple or really just want to listen to an enjoyable music related podcast, these guys are awesome. I mean, I just have a good time listening to them talk. And John's always giving Rhode Island facts, which is great. I've learned quite a bit about Rhode Island. And it's a lot of fun. So check out their show, the Deep Purple podcast. They're all over the place on wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of the episodes are on YouTube, but much like my episode that I did where I used a small snippet of copywritten music, even though we're a broadcast media, the generators now flag those. And instead of trying to deal with a copyright issue, I just took down the episode. A lot of their episodes don't make it to YouTube, but they have all the links of where you can hear them. They also have a really cool Patreon that you can check out as well. So that's in the show notes. Had a great time. Thanks, guys, for having me on the show. Really can't wait to do it again. And the next thing is the single for Bring the Sun releases this week. Now, this song is a song that I wrote many years ago, and this is a revamp recording of it. I can't re-record my vocals because I can't sing anymore, but I have clean enough takes of the original vocals that I was able to use them. And Michael McPherson, who has been on the show a couple of times as Michael, talking about his band Terra Anomaly, as well as the Sedona UFO tour guide, one and the same. He did the guitar solo on it for me, and I played the rhythm guitar tracks, which is something that I'm not particularly skilled in, but did it anyway. I think that came out pretty decent. And then upgraded some of the instrument sounds and that. So that will actually be coming out on Friday. Check out my website, www.scotthaskin.com, and you can find the link to where all the places are. It's going to be the usual places, Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. I think I'm on Pandora. I'm sure there's a bunch of other lesser known places that I'm on too. And then the album will be coming out. I'm really hoping for the end of July-ish still. My distributor is very backlogged because everybody's sitting at home, so they're just putting out a lot of music. and it's making it harder to get the music reviewed and get the photograph that you have to upload reviewed and all that, because there's all these standards that you have to meet, and everything has to be reviewed before they'll send it out to their distributors. So those are taking longer and longer. And so I'm in the process of mixing the album now. I have to re-record one more bass track, just because it pops a little bit in the audio. And so I'm going to try re-recording it with a different compressor and seeing if I get better results. But apart from that, the album is called Dreamscape, and it is a collection of some of the earlier songs that I have written. And I will be doing I don't know if I'm going to do a series of videos or do a podcast on it or what I'm going to do just yet, but I will be diving a little bit into each song, talking about when it was written, where I was at as a writer, because a lot of these are very early songs. Like some of these are within the first, handful of songs that I wrote. So I have rearranged some of them. I've upgraded the sounds from the original releases and just kind of modernized them a little bit. I tried to keep the integrity of the original writing because I think it shows that progression of where I was to where I am, but I've also upgraded it a little bit as far as the writing goes. I've produced it a little bit differently. So anyway, hopefully that'll be enjoyable, and keep an eye out because that'll be out around July. If you want to get the notifications, get on my mailing list, go to scotthaskin.com, and you can sign up for the mailing list at the bottom of the page. I promise you, I do not write and bother people very often. I don't even do it once a month, even though I should, and I would really like to, but then I'll go, oh crap, I didn't release a mailing list letter last month. Yeah, I should probably do one this month. And then 2 months later, I actually get around to it. So there's not a lot of bothering that goes on. But when projects are released, I am able to get a newsletter out when I actually do release something. So that's typically when they go out. Oh, what else? That I think is pretty much catching up on all the news. So let's talk about the show. So I've been trying to put out an episode of the show every week, or nearly every week, as I've realized re-recording the songs for Dreamscape and doing all the producing and editing. It's been quite a chore, as much as I love it. But trying to do music and the podcast every week is getting to be very difficult. There's a lot of time that's involved. There's a lot of legwork in setting up the podcast, reaching out to people who I'd like to have on the show, going back and forth with conversation, answering questions, helping them feel comfortable to come on the show, finding time in the schedule to actually record. Sometimes I have to really rush the editing of the episode, which I don't like to do, just because of, when I'm able to get somebody scheduled to come on the show. It's been a very time-consuming hassle, though I love bringing the show to you guys. So I found a compromise in the middle of it. I'm going to switch the show for the time being, at least through summer, to a bi-weekly instead of a weekly show. So every other Wednesday instead of every Wednesday. But, a lot of that is going to depend on, again, when people can schedule, because I may do an episode this week, but somebody that has been delaying because of a release or whatever, now the release is ready to go. So now they want to come on the show. So now we're trying to tie it to a release of their project, so that I might bring on the next week instead of holding it for 2 weeks. So it might be a little bit sporadic. It's all dependent on when people can come on the show. I've got several interviews lined up that I've been waiting for months to do, but as the projects have been delayed in their release because they want to wait until they can go out and perform, a lot of those projects just keep getting delayed and delayed. Deep Purple's new album, Whoosh, was supposed to be out already. They've delayed it until August. I hope that they stick with that. I'm not really sure why they're delayed, because, even if you release an album today, you might not be coming to my town for 7 or 8 months. So I'm not sure exactly what the marketing strategies are behind it. But at the end of the day, a lot of releases from the major bands are getting delayed with the virus and the lockdowns and all that. So their promo and their marketing has also been delayed. So that means any interviews and that have also been pushed off to be closer to the release. I'm hoping that some of them will just start coming through, because we really don't have a time when live music is going to become a thing again. So we'll see. But those episodes I will just bring to you when I can. But as far as regularly scheduled shows, the plan is to go bi-weekly at this point. There's also some other factors that are going to affect that. For one, I'm looking at doing an overhaul of my PC. So that means reinstalling days and days worth of stuff on new drives. And that is not going to be a fun project, and it's going to be very time consuming. So, to try and stop or find a way to strategically upload the right things that I need to do the podcast, it's a little bit of a hassle. Better just to take a little bit of time and just install everything properly and in a nice, reasonable order. So there's that. There's those kinds of things that are going to be coming up, but mainly the thing is how time consuming it is, and just scheduling guests and trying to get everything done on time every week. It's not the simplest thing in the world, and with as many other projects as I have, they're suffering a little bit too much, and I'm not releasing things as much as I would like to. So trying to find that happy medium between the two. So that's it for now. Thank you for tuning in. And remember on Friday to check for Bring the Sun by Scott K. Haskin. You can look on my website. And if the links aren't up, just go right to iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, all the good places. Thank you guys for listening in. And we'll be back with another episode here somewhere soon. Cheers.